Hey, what's going on guys? Jason Frausto for TennisUnleashed.net, and today I'm going to show you two different ways to get more leg on your forehand and more tip flip on your forehand. It's what we see the best players in the world getting. Somebody like Jannik Sinner, a gigantic tip flip on his forehand. I'm going to run you through two different ways to get big tip flip and leg on your forehand coming up next. All right, so we know that everybody wants more leg, more power, more spin, and more tip flip on their forehand. That's kind of the phrase that I've coined recently, is what I call tip flip. I've talked about it in a lot of different forehand analysis videos that I've done on the channel, but today I'm gonna show you how to actually make it happen on your forehand by hitting some balls and going through some different scenarios. So the first thing that you wanna know, right, is what does tip flip actually mean? Well, it refers to this part of the racket right here. This is the tip of my racket, and getting this racket to flip from one position to another position, and that second position is going to be a position where it gets behind my elbow before I drive forward to hit the swing. So I'm going to show you that tip flip real quick here, guys. I go through the forehand swing like this, and when I get back into this position, right, I'm doing a loop on my forehand, bringing my racket up a little bit. You don't have to loop your forehand. I like to bring it up a little bit, but before I come down here, this is where the tip of the racket now currently is off to the right of my hand. So here's my hand right here, my hitting hand. The tip of the racket and the racket head is off to the right of my hand a little bit. And then from this position, as I come to swing, the tip of the racket should go behind my hitting elbow at some point, definitely on my biggest and heaviest and strongest forehands. When I'm really teeing off, this should happen basically every time. From here, that tip goes here, and then you come through and swing. So again, I'll demonstrate that just one more time real quick, that tip flip. So we're going from here, split, come through this position, bring the racket down into the old pat the dog, quote unquote, leave the racket head off to the right of the hand a little bit, have my wrist really relaxed here. And then from this position, when I start this forward swing, that tip of the racket should come behind the elbow. So there's a lot of racket leg on that forehand, and then I'm gonna smash that forehand, right? I'm gonna spank that thing, hit it big. So now that I understand what the tip flip is, I really need to master how to set up this leg. So I'm gonna walk you through how to set up the leg itself and that tip flip position. So I'm gonna walk you through a couple of the keys right now. Left hand on the throat of the racket like this for most players. I'll have players either grip low on the throat of the racket, the midsection of the throat of the racket, or high. I leave that up to people as a personal preference. Rafa, a lot of times, a little bit lower on the throat of the racket, and then you got other guys up here in a higher position. I tend to go a little bit higher up, but that's up to the player. So I'm gonna, again, go from here like this, split. I'm gonna make my unit turn, and when I make this unit turn, couple of keys here. My chest is pointed off to the right, my belly button is pointed off to the right, and my hips are turning just like this, right? Everything pointed off to the right, so I'm really coiling my body. This is a shot that's hit with the body mostly, right? So we're gonna go from here. I'm going to have my racket a little bit above my head if I have a little bit of a loop. And then from this position, as I come back, my arm's gonna go from a bent position here, and it's just gonna extend back. And for a lot of people, this arm will get straight, but it's not absolutely required that it gets straight. But get it relaxed when it gets back here, and have that, again, racket head off to the right of your hand, and then you're gonna come through and you're gonna swing. But you have to know how to set the forehand up to execute this properly. So make sure you're going through those things and setting it up the right way before you swing at the ball. Now I'll show you the first way to execute the big leg or tip flip on your forehand side. This is pretty common for people to do it this way. I'm gonna do shadows first. So what I'm gonna focus on, again, getting through here, getting that nice unit turn of my body, coming back and doing this. And the key to getting the leg, the first big key or first way to do this is to use my hips and really rotate my hips like this, and use rotation of the hips to force that leg into action. So again, it's here, I'm gonna go here, really focus on my hips after I've loaded my legs, and I'm really going to rotate my hips to activate that tip flip right there. And then I'm gonna come through and I'm gonna hit the ball. So that was the first way that you can activate and have that big leg or big tip flip on your forehand side. There's another way, right? And I tend to prefer this way just personally for myself. I feel like I get a little bit bigger tip flip when I do it this way, and everybody's a little bit different, so you don't have to do it the way that I do. But I'm gonna show you the second method, and that's the shoulder, the right shoulder right here. So what I'm gonna do again is go through here, split step, do a shadow swing, And with this shadow swing, I just need to follow the same steps as before. I've turned everything and rotated everything here. But now the initial pull of the racket, instead of using my hips to do this, I'm gonna focus on my right shoulder and trying to actually pull it with the right shoulder. A lot of people pull with the bottom of their arm, right, forearm area, and when they pull with that, they don't get as much flip on that tip of the racket, not as much leg. So I make the effort to take the right shoulder, right, and pull that, and when I pull that right there, you can see that tip flips right behind my elbow, and then I come through and I swing. So it's gonna be here, here, pull with the shoulder, and then there. And again, everybody's a little bit different. Different things feel good or bad for different people, so try both methods. I'm gonna demonstrate both methods now to show you how they work with the ball. So, you'll notice today, no ball machine, no hitting partner, right? I'm on a solo mission today, nothing wrong with that. I'm gonna do a bunch of self-feeding today, just tossing the ball high up in the air and essentially giving myself short sitters because I don't have a hitting partner or a ball machine. And you might say, Jason, well, that's a really easy way to demonstrate this or to do this. But if you go, to the lower levels of recreational tennis or any other levels like that, you'll see that people really struggle with weaker balls that have no pace on them. It's usually easier to hit a ball back when it's got some pace on it already than it is if it's got nothing on it. So these are nothing balls, and I'm gonna have to generate all the pace myself and show you that leg. So the first way that I'm gonna execute the leg is I'm gonna use my hips to really rotate on this, and I'm gonna use the rotational force of the hips to get that big leg and big tip flip. So here we go. Sitter, sitter, trying to get big leg on this, keeping that arm relaxed in the back, focusing on rotating, getting good spin, and really turning and trying to really torque it and really use my hips to generate that leg on the forehand. And before I get into using the shoulder and demonstrating how to use the shoulder to get that big tip flip or that big leg on the forehand, I just want to address one little thing with the take back on the forehand. So you'll see somebody like a Yannick Sinner, right? They get into this position back here and they'll take the racket and they'll take the palm of their hand and kind of point it straight back so the strings are a little bit more like this before they make the pull. And I was demonstrating a little bit more of this position. You can do whatever you want. You can do it more like this, where the strings in the palm are pointed down. You can do it a little bit more Sinner style, where you do it like this. This probably has a little bit bigger move even to the ball. But again, you can get big tip flip and big leg without introducing this extra component here. It's not necessary. You can go here, still get that giant Sinner leg, tip flip and leg without kind of twisting it back like this. It's a personal choice. So now I'm going to use the shoulder pull to demonstrate how to get that big tip flip or big leg on the forehand, right? So let's go ahead here, self feeds, loading still with the body. Still want to load the legs and make the initial pull with that right shoulder, just a little bit. If I'm hitting good balls, they're hitting the fence on one bounce. All right, so there's some examples of me getting that tip flip, right? Loading my body, but then pulling initially a little bit with the right shoulder to activate that tip to get behind my hitting elbow. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video on the two different ways that you can get big tip flip or big forehand leg on your forehand side, right? I showed you the way by using your hips and rotating really with your hips, the first way. And then the second way, I demonstrated pulling a little bit more with your right shoulder at first to activate that tip flip. The key is to make sure you have all the fundamentals down in the swing. And if you have the fundamentals to the swing down, you'll be able to actually execute that tip flip and hit big forehands just like the people that you see on TV. If you found this video helpful or you feel like you learned something today, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I'm Jason Frausto for tennisunleashed.net. I'll see you next time.